Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the World Explorer podcast, where we take an idea and create a world around it, which we then explore. Pretty self-explanatory. It's all in the name. As always, my name is Casey, and I am joined by my friend Isaac, the keeper of the props.
I put the banana in the dynamite stick, and the candle went boom.
I'm sorry, what?
Banana, dynamite, boom, candle.
Yeah, so this is the guy who comes up with all the props for the world. I promise you he's better than that. Most of them make sense, some of them don't, but most of them make sense. What was that sound?
That was a laugh. I don't know how clearly it came across Discord.
It didn't. It sounded very weird. Okay, long enough intro. Let's get into this.
So I was thinking this time around about a world that is like sort of like a mountain, but it's a waterfall. Like at the top of the waterfall, it's sort of like a circular mountain, and maybe it's got like a pond or something at the top, and it runs down the sides as a waterfall. And that is the world. Like the whole world is just this giant circular waterfall.
So,
And
volcano, worldwide, water instead of lava?
kind of, yeah, kind of like a volcano. But I was thinking rather than it like erupting water, it's more like at a pond, maybe a shallow pond or something at the top. And what I see is when all the water runs down to the bottom, it could evaporate. Maybe it goes into like an endless ocean. I don't know, but it could like evaporate and create like a fog and cloud that goes up, and then it replenishes, and then it goes into the top again and replenishes the waterfall.
So endless ocean, are we talking like those pools where they have like the glass barrier and then the water stops but it's supposed to look endless? Or are we talking an ocean that just never stops?
I was thinking an ocean that just never stops.
So have there been people who have gone off into on an adventure in the ocean and then they just starve to death every time?
I have no doubt that's the case. Well, what if they get fish?
Okay, well, maybe they make boat societies, like just people growing crops and living purely on boats.
I could see that happening.
It seems like. So, is this mountain the only land? And it's also kind of covered in water?
Yes, like I was thinking, like the entire mountain is covered in water.
So there
the
is
entire
no
thing
land.
is just one big waterfall. There is no land except for maybe inside the waterfall. Like you walk through the waterfall, go past it, and the inside could have like carved out tunnels and houses and homes where people live.
Okay, so there's the mainland, and then there's the boat societies. Because people gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, people would surely go out and start building boat societies.
Like, I'm thinking
live off of
Mortal
nothing but
Engine
fish.
style, but with boats. Do you know the Mortal Engine series?
Yeah, I
Okay,
haven't
yeah.
read it, but I am familiar with it.
My brother stole the books, but I got them back, so I can read them now. But so I watched the movie. So there's a Mortal Engine movie, so I've seen it. It's pretty good. I'm hoping the books are better because books tend to be. So I'm excited to read the books. But they just have these for those who haven't and have no clue what I'm talking about. They have like these giant cities on wheels that go up and fight each other, and that's what I'm referring to. Except giant cities as boats. So just more sea, less sand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot of wood.
Yeah.
Um,
How
so,
get wood?
how do you get wood? I would think from trees.
Where tree grow in all water?
Well, underneath the water, there might be like bits of grass where plants can grow up through the waterfall.
Okay, so the water
Like,
is a thin layer for the mountain. It's
maybe
not
in some
deep.
areas. It might depend on where you are. Other areas, I would assume, would be thicker and have a heavier downpour of water than other areas.
Yeah, I guess that would make
I
sense.
think there'll be some areas where maybe it even like stops and forms its own tiny little pool of water, where things would be even easier to grow from, or people could go swimming in, or
I mean, I'm pretty sure they live swimming. You have to swim to
well,
get
not if
out the
you,
mountain, and up
yeah.
the mountain, and down the mountain, and around the mountain. If you
Okay,
want to
so
go
you
anywhere,
still
you're
gotta
getting wet.
bathe. You still gotta bathe.
Dude, you're just constantly wet.
Not if you live inside the mountain.
Even then, I mean, if there's that much water constantly seeping through the rock, it's gonna be damp in the mountain.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean dampness does not mean bath.
No, but dampness does mean you're always wet.
True.
I'm saying this is an issue that people have to deal with, or I guess it's a matter like they're just used to it. This is just life.
Yeah.
We were born wet. We grew up wet. We stayed wet. We're half fish. Have to be done.
Um. So yeah, that's the world that I came up with. So these people that live inside the mountains, uh, I don't know. Is this the sort of thing where you want to have like a class structure where it's like maybe people we seem to do this a lot. People at the top of the mountain, rich, powerful. People at the bottom of the mountain, poor and miserable.
I mean,
Do we want to go that route, or have we done that
I
too
feel
many
like this is
times
a
with
world
clouds
of
and elevators?
smaller. Let's do something different. Let us do a world of mini societies. So no hierarchy because the mountain is a relatively small people group. It's just, or maybe okay. Here's an idea that we could expand on. The mountain people are the select few who have been deemed proper for I guess like having and raising children, who will then be sentenced to mini boat societies which are going to be sent off to find proper land because they've heard rumors of it. And every couple generations, they send out more people. So all the societies stay small because when it gets too big, they send off another group of people to hunt for land who never return.
Dark.
A little.
Um.
I don't know. You've had like
So you
competitions for being selected or for not being selected, depending on which one we think would be better. They're a big ship making group. You eat a lot of fish. You know, there's some interesting ideas there.
Yeah, I imagine that the people who live on land already eat a whole bunch of fish, and they have plants growing in the mountain that they could use for food. Like I imagine, like there's probably some trees with uh, fruit growing. I imagine all the vegetation there would be very hydrated.
Yeah. I'd
Like
also imagine that they learned how to divert rivers so they could have some dry spots for like to grow certain crops that they think would prefer not to have be flooded constantly. I bet rice would be a
yeah,
good food because rice likes lots of water. Also, lots of tropical fruits and stuff. Anything like that. It's a very I don't
pineapples.
yeah. So because of all the water on this world, and just the way that the sun interacts with oceans and heating things up and the amount of water, I'd imagine this would be this planet would naturally be hotter. It just would have to be. So we would have fruits and animals and stuff that are used to more humid, hotter climates. Because I don't think they get winter. I don't think there's anywhere for there to be winter in a world that's all ocean.
Yeah, because this entire world is ocean, fog, and a mountain with a waterfall on it.
I mean, this is a world that's 99.9999999 water.
Yeah.
And it's probably lower because this ocean is infinite. Yeah.
Oh, but that makes me wonder what happens. What about underneath the ocean? What is that like? Like, if you were to start digging downward in the mountain
Or
underneath
just
the
learn
waterfall,
how to breathe underwater.
you learn how to breathe underwater. I don't think that's a thing you learn.
I mean, no, but it's something you can invent things for, or I,
So scuba diving.
yeah, yeah, or we could just say these people need it and let them. because they
Okay.
might need it, which isn't a whole new idea. As we now have aquatic people, we have mer people.
I mean, we could make this a society of there are people who can transform back and forth between like mer people and humans, because that's a totally original idea that hasn't been done before,
I
over and
literally just
over.
watched the new Pixar movie, Luca, all about that.
Yeah, Luca did it. There's this show, Mako Mermaids, that did it. There was a
Lovecraft had
Netflix.
his own horror version of it.
Yeah, there was this Netflix. I think it was a Netflix original show that was really weird. That did it. It was strange. That's all I'll say. Um,
Isn't it
there
like
was
O2 or oxygen or whatever it is?
H2O, just add
Yeah,
water. That
H2.
was one that they did where they
Yeah, isn't that like originally Australian or something?
I don't know. I know it started off as a show, and then there was a Netflix original spin-off or something, and then there
Okay,
was an
I don't think
animated
that's the point of
version,
this podcast. That what? There was an animal. No, this is not the point of this podcast.
and
So,
then we did it one time with
yeah,
the
but they
fish.
weren't they weren't so much mer people as they were either people or they were either fish-like people or they were fish.
Yeah, so it was similar but not quite.
Yeah, this.
We were trying our best to be very original with that episode.
Yeah, well, that the whole point of that was a weird take on a fantasy world. That's literally what the title was. It's our most popular. Part 1 is. Part 2 didn't do as well. But people liked part 1. Or maybe they didn't because they don't watch part 2. So maybe that's a sign that people liked the title
Oh,
and didn't like that. And you know what? Maybe we shouldn't think about that too deeply and get back to this world. Uh,
I am depressed.
don't. No, look. Well, let's fish people. Let's make fish people. Everyone loves fish
Okay,
people.
so fish mer people.
Or,
Uh,
other idea, we can go a different Pixar movie route and go with Nemo and just have lots of intelligent fish, like no people whatsoever.
okay, so how does that interact? How do fish interact with the waterfall? Do fish now swim up the waterfall?
Now we can have a creature that maybe does, I don't know, a ruling creature that like maybe has control over the fish that lives on the mountain. And that's its home, and the fish have to like pay homage to it, or else it threatens to, I don't know, remove the water or something. And it has ability over this volcano thing that literally like takes water and sucks it in, so like water levels drop to freak out the fish. So the fish.
I was thinking he plugged the top so that water wouldn't flow anymore.
Well,
Just stick a giant cork in it.
well, I was looking like he had a way to like make almost like a whirlpool, so it looks like all the
Ooh.
water is draining away, but in reality he's just swirling in the ground. He doesn't have power. He knows that, but the fish don't. And maybe
Okay.
this is a human. Maybe it's an entire species. Maybe it's one deranged fish that
For
just.
some reason, I imagine him as a very, um, very large, fat green fish wearing a blue vest.
And I feel like he'd need opposable thumbs or some, like, as weird as that might be for a fish, he needs something which he can, some advantage over these other fish. And maybe there used to be like an entire society of this type of fish, but he's killed them all. So he would be the only one and can rule in his volcano thing. I don't know what that means once he dies, or what the world was like before he existed, but it's in a snapshot of time. This could have been a thing.
Okay, so we got this fish thing. Uh, okay, so what does he look like? Because I don't think blue vest, fat, green fish person thing is really a good description of a creature.
Yeah. I.
I don't think that's a really good image for him.
Frog. I think he's more frog-like, but with better thumbs, maybe. and can swim
Okay.
without, but more so less air breath and a frog when it's nearly ready not to be air breathing, but it never ever reaches that point. So
So the stage like between frog and tadpole.
yes, but
I don't know
closer
what
to the
that's called.
frog end, but not quite ready to come out.
Yeah, I don't know what those things are called.
They're
I
still
can never
tadpoles,
remember.
I think, at that stage.
Oh, I
Don't
thought they
quote
had
me
another
on
name.
that. I don't know. They're the adolescent. Well, in this case, that's their end state. They never make it to let's go out. Because frogs kind of like I'm sure in this it makes more sense to have a frog with an opposable thumb versus a fish. Also, frogs eat fish.
Oh, that's not a thing I knew.
Some frogs do. Others eat flies, but some frogs will eat small fish. So that's an element we can play with if we want to go really dark
Okay,
and
yeah,
have
we could
these.
say that. We could say, "Bring me food," or "You are my food."
To make this world more long-standing, I do think that this should be a full frog society living on this mountain, and then the fish societies. But now, the next thing we need is we need something to keep the fish from just swimming off, leaving the mountain,
Uh,
saying no. Something
okay,
scarier
so
than the
how about
frogs.
rather than the world being an endless pool of water, the world is, or the edges of the world are kind of like a whirlpool where it's
Okay.
all swirling around in the edges, and or at least it might seem that way. I don't know. And if you try to like go any further, you'll just get knocked around and maybe die.
Okay, here's my thought to what the world looks like. It's a spinning top. So you know those tops? We have the mountain in the center that kind of goes down, covering up with water. It goes to the edge and then it does it the same in the opposite direction. But the bottom half is just whirling water that's getting pushed through the main mountain bit again. While the top part's a lot calmer and where everything can live. And, there's just a layer of land separating them in the middle of this top, like world, the spinning top.
Oh wait, okay. So are you saying that like above the mountain there's water and below the mountain there is water?
Yes, but there's a land. Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna try to explain this better. See how I do. So, the mountain is the top part of the spinning top, right? And out of it is pouring out water, and water falls into this nice calm layer. But then it reaches the edge, and I'm not sure what's doing this. I'm sure there's some scientific reason we don't understand, so therefore we shall call it magic. It kind of gets sucked over the edge into like a whirlpool on the bottom, that then pushes it back up the mountain. So maybe it's like a spinning top with half of it cut off or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think how like to make I can picture it in my head, but I'm not sure how to put it into words.
I think I kind of understand. Okay, so is it um what we had is in the beginning with the mountain having a bunch of water coming down,
Yeah.
waterfall, and then covering this giant pool of water, but then around the edges, uh maybe it's more like a half sphere where
Yeah.
all the water is kept in sort of like a fish bowl almost,
And it's very
and around those edges
treacherous.
where the fish bowl would be, that's where the water is moving extremely fast and swirling around, and then it comes all the way down to the center and the very bottom of the fish bowl like
Yeah.
thing, and it goes up through the mountain, comes
And
out the
back
top,
out.
and starts going back down.
So it's just an endless circle.
Is
But there
that
yeah,
what you
but
were
there is
thinking?
like a thin layer of land separating the whirly pool bit and the calm bit, which actually has the waterfall mountain, from which things like kelp and coral and stuff grows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it now.
Awesome. Hopefully the listeners do too.
And
Yes, but
so this story is about how the fish uh would either discover and stop listen it discovered that the frog society can't actually control the water and they stop doing their will, or they escape and they go to another fishbowl without a mountain.
What? How would
They
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 do that?
jump off the edge of the violent waters and fall into another one that has no land mass.
Well, that's a problem for fish, which need food and shelter, which they tend to
Okay, so
get.
it's got underwater land mass, so they can get kelp and coral and stuff.
Okay. Um,
It's Fishtopia.
Now, the real question here is that just a symbolism for the fish have died and they're now in fish heaven?
That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking just running away and finding a way to escape their tyrannical frog people.
Yes, but they've fallen off the edge, hoping in something else. And I guarantee you there are going to be people out there who believe the fish actually died and they're just now in fish heaven.
They can believe that.
Okay, just making
So,
yourself aware
if
of
some
that.
people want, if some people want to believe they all died and went to fish heaven, that's okay. If other people want to believe that they found a paradise where they can peacefully live, that's good too.
Okay, so is it about getting the courage to jump off the edge, or
It might be doing that, and it might also be they gotta find some way to get past the
the
violent
whirlpools?
currents.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gotta find some way to safely get through there.
Because I'm sure there's that one fish that somehow, by the great miracles of life, managed to survive getting sucked by a whirlpool, thrown underneath the island, and shot back out the mountain. And he has some horror stories to share.
Yeah, he'll tell everybody about how awful it was, but at the same time, he saw other little pools of water that that all the fish could jump into.
Yeah, so he's the one that gives them hope, but at the same time he's like, but there was another fun, and I'm sure he's missing a fin or like it's scarred up, and because they always are. Uh, just
And all of the frogs are like, you speak of nonsense. You must have been hit in the head on your ride. Don't
or
listen to anything he says.
or there he says remove these thoughts from your head because if you don't, they turn on the whirlpool. All the fish scream. A few might get sucked up, and then they turn it off, and
Ooh, that's a good idea. Like if you have thoughts of leaving, the whirlpool turns on.
well, the frog you have to voice
Yeah,
your thoughts.
frog
The
turns
frogs
it on.
the frogs are not telepathic.
No.
I feel like that'd be going too far if we make the frogs telepathic.
If you speak such words, the whirlpool activates.
We activate the
And then there'll be
whirlpool.
some. Yeah.
Sacrifices
they'll be
must be
like-
made to the whirlpool, which is just fish that they've sucked up into the mountain to eat for dinner.
Yep. And they could all. Somebody, the protagonist maybe could be like, hey, I'm going to prove to you that talking about this doesn't activate the whirlpool. It's like, no, don't say it. And then he talks about it while the frog isn't around and nothing happens.
Yeah. It says, see? It's the frogs that are doing it, and we need to figure out how the frogs are doing it. Yeah, there's a lot of different paths that could go overruling the frogs. Or we could do we could have a kind frog from the inside protesting against the abuse of the fish, break some stereotypes. A fish that, like, a weird relationship between a fish that got sucked in that they decide to keep for whatever reason, and, like, make a fish king overlord who thinks he's better than himself, and that causes tension and issues in itself. Now they're sending out fish that they've kind of brainwashed to rule over them.
That sounds. You have an idea how strange these sentences sound about the frog tyrants who rule over the fish?
I
The
don't know what you're
whirlpool.
talking about. I think we're making perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah. It's making perfect sense to me. We have since this is a smaller world than we first assumed, I guess they don't really have like whales and stuff like that. I think that would throw off the balance considerably.
Yeah. Maybe there are some pools that have other kinds of fish. Like maybe there are some that might have whales living in them, and others that might have sharks, or others that have maybe seagulls. I don't know, but they would probably end up flying
Honestly,
upward.
you could have a book series with this group of fish that just escape one pool to fall into another that's just as bad or not worse for whatever reason. So they find another one, and it's all their hunt to find a pool which they can call their own and feel safe. And the last book either has them all die if you're that type of person, or actually find what they were looking for. Or maybe they realized that their best place to live was their original home, just without the frog tyrants. So they then make the struggle to find their way back up somehow. Maybe they made
And
friends
then
with seagulls.
overthrow the frog tyrants.
With the friends they've made along the way in the other pools, and they all come together to overthrow the frog tyrants and live in peace and harmony until the next tyrant comes up, because they always do. But at least this generation lived in peace and harmony, and maybe the next 2 generations. Usually by generation 3, things have gone bad again.
I'm gonna say the sharks from one of the pools ate all the frogs.
I don't
Frogs eat
think
the
a shark
fish,
would
and
eat
so
a frog. I was thinking seagulls, because they need a way to get up back to back to it, because it's a higher pool than the others, and seagulls could do it, or a bird-like creature, and they'll eat frogs
that's
more than a
true.
shark will. Because
Fish are friends, not food.
I would agree with that, but not because I disagree with eating fish, because I don't like the taste of fish or the smell, more the
I,
smell.
I was quoting Finding Nemo.
I know you were. So we have
I
other
don't
what?
I don't really know where else to go with this world.
I'm not sure either, to be honest. It's like it
It's a lot more
feels
simple than I expected.
if I mean part of
Or
me
then we
is
had to go.
trying to decide if this world is like a horror story or a cute children's movie.
I think it could really go either way, depending on
Exactly.
how you want to write it.
Yeah,
I think this could really work for anyone.
I'm not sure if like we have a wholesome children's story or if we have a horrific horror story or something I guess maybe in between, like a horror story but like for younger audiences, because that's a popular genre is for children's movie is a more darker themed movie that they just let younger kids watch for whatever reason.
Um, or maybe it's like a twisted version of a children's sort of movie or setup. I can't think of anything. I know that they exist, but I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. Instead of video game kids on my mind, where it's like Five Nights at Freddy's, how it's supposed to be like a Chuck E. Cheese sort of
Yeah,
parody thing,
yeah,
but it was turned into a horror sort of thing.
yeah, with all those creepy puppets things, animatics,
Yeah, the
whatever.
animatronics.
Animatronics, that's the word. Those things are horrifying. I know that's the
Yeah,
point, but
I
it's
never. I was never bothered by them when I went to Chuck E. Cheese.
I
I
never
thought
went
they
to
were
Chuck E.
cool.
I've only been to Chuck E. Cheese once, and I don't remember even seeing them. So,
I got to high five Chucky.
I went to what's it called? I think it's called like Monkey Joe's or whatever. That's the game place that I had when I was like the age to enjoy that stuff. So I think it was Monkey
I
Joe's.
have I have no idea what Monkey Joe's is.
It's like Chuck E. Cheese but better.
Mm.
For one, at least the one we were at was because it had miniature golf. It was less crowded. It had pretty good prices. Like there's this discount thing where we were allowed an entire round of miniature golf. I think 2 games of laser tag, 3 rounds in this huge bumper car pit thing that it had, and then like I don't know, like 50 game tokens, and each token got you a game. Like there was no multi-game. This one takes 4. This one. Each game was the same. It was just 1 token for any game. It was nice.
That does sound better than Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Oh, and it also came with like and then this was a homeschool like sale thing too. And then we also like got like huge pizzas and soda, pitchers of soda and water and stuff that we ate. We did it once a month, and it was the greatest thing ever. And the best day was when one of the big machines was broken and they were fixing it, and it was just pouring out tons and tons of tickets. like a Home Depot bucket size of tickets. And me, my brother, and another friend of ours, we were just walking by, and the guy's finished fixing up this machine, closes it, looks at us and says, "Hey, you three, you want these tickets?" Just hands us this bucket full of tickets. Like, we got high-end prizes that day. It was great. It was a good day. It was a good day. Also, the miniature golf was cool because they changed it like every 2-3 years. So it was a space theme once, it was a jungle the next. It was cool. Fun times. I have good memories there.
We could build a jungle next week.
We could if we want.
I'm gonna come up with a creative jungle world for us to work on next week.
Yeah, no.
It can't just be a normal jungle. I'm gonna have to
obviously
come up with
not.
something unique for it.
Yeah. This might just be like a mini episode. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, having like a smaller snapshot episode.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty simple world. It did not get as much building as I thought it would, and we went a totally different direction. We started off with like the like the boat societies, and then we went to
fish and frogs
tyrannical
somehow.
frogs.
Look, I blame it. I've been watching too many Pixar movies. I've watched 3 Pixar movies in the past 2 days. Okay, and that's what I'm blaming it. I'm blaming on I'm writing a video, making a video for my YouTube channel about Pixar movies. I'm just in that mindset, so I'm blaming it on that.
Pixar ruined my life.
It ruined this podcast. Pixar ruined this podcast. Is that what I should title this? So people have no clue what this video is actually about. And then I have the picture of like the spinning top and like a fish and a frog, and that's it. And they'll be like, what? What?
Okay, yeah, I would love that, and it's like you wouldn't understand until you got to the very end of the podcast. How did Pixar ruin it exactly?
This is how. I watched too many Pixar movies this week, and the podcast has just been derailed at this point because of it. If you're wondering if all our podcasts are like this, they're actually not. We're usually better than this. We usually are. Like, we can usually stay in a world with like minimal deviations for a good hour, or like however long the podcasts tend to be. It's just today was not one of those days.
Nope, I still enjoyed it.
No, it was
I still
fun.
think this
It was.
is-
I was kind of
this
fun
was a
doing
good
like a nice little world, and it's a good world, and I think it'd be a really cool like children's book drawn out. Like the visuals would be fun of the frog people and the fish and the different ponds and jumping through. So, or that, or a horror movie, you know, whichever one you feel like. But we are gonna probably end it here, and you can join us next week when we'll have another topic, apparently jungle themed, because we've been promised a jungle themed episode. So
I don't know what it'll be exactly, but I'll come up with something.
Well, you have to now. You've promised the viewers.
Yeah.
Listeners. Yep. So
Hopefully my brain juices work.
Yep. Good luck with that. Anyways, we will see you next week with yet another world to explore. Bye.